I have the pleasure of having a stellar award-winning poet, Lavinia Jackson. She is an Air Force veteran, and she has some wonderful insight on how to be an artist when you get out of the military. I am especially proud of this episode. I'm really excited about this episode because there's so many artists in uniform who don't get to express that side of themselves. And so she's going to talk about how she thrives in the artist realm outside of the military and just give us awesome advice. I'm going to let you guys know this is the second time we recorded this because somehow I lost the first one. So I already know like all the juicy tidbits she's going to share with us, and I cannot wait to share it with you. Hi, Lavinia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. By the way, I was in the Coast Guard, not the Air Force.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. The uniform is the same. We borrowed them, because we didn't have enough. It's okay. Right.
I apologize. And you know what? I'm going to get beat by my friend who's in the Coast Guard too, because she's like, no, stop playing, Rolande. You know it's a service.
Yeah, they call us, depending on who you're talking to, the Navy call us the puddle police, and I just have to let them know, y'all ships can't get but so far inland, so y'all suckers need us anyway.
Right. Okay, so Lavinia, why don't you start off by telling us how you became a poet, your journey to poetry, post-military. Just give us all the tidbits about you.
I've been performing poetry since I was 4, like most Black folks. You start off in church at Easter, Christmas, wherever with your recitations. My grandmother took it a step further because I was a real sickly kid and I couldn't play sports. That wasn't it. So she was like, well, public speaking, we can do that. So I started memorizing poems and going around and performing them at 6, 7, 8. So by the time I got to be 10, I think it was 10 or 11, I was commanding crowds of over 1,000 people. Yeah. So, but this wasn't my work. This was somebody else's work. And then I was in competition. I didn't tell you this part the last time, but there was another Jackson person who was old enough to be my grandfather who was out here doing stuff. So there was this little competition going around about who was the better Jackson poet.
Shame on him. You was a child.
Thank you.
Why is he stressing out over a little girl? Though I have to say, you have to be formidable if you're going to command crowds of hundreds and thousands. I'm sorry.
Right, well, so I'm like,
I feel a little sore.
I'm like, it's my bad, but I'm 4 foot nothing, and you know what I'm saying? Don't get mad. So I started actually writing probably when I was 8 or 9. I became published when I was 13 for the first time. And then I got awards in high school for poetry. I discovered Maya Angelou after my grandmother passed away and read Cage Bird, and I was like, yo, I can do this. This right here is the life. I just want to write. I don't really care. I want to write. And I had always been a fan of the classics, they were in my house, so I did a lot of reading. And so once I graduated from high school, I went on to college, and I got a degree in creative writing and philosophy, concentration in metaphysics and poetry. Yeah, that's how much I loved poetry. I wanted to go study it and learn it and all that stuff.
There's nothing wrong with that because poetry is not easy. Not everybody has the grasp of, the breadth of vocabulary to put words together with a rhyme or a rhythm. And there's so many different types of poetry. Roses are red and violets are blue. Real poetry goes way beyond that. So if they have a degree on that, I don't see what the problem is.
No, it wasn't a problem. And I didn't mean to come off like it was a problem. It was a very, very white space. And so I had to learn how to find my voice inside of a space that didn't venerate, didn't value, didn't do anything. So I had the same professor for 3 semesters because our poetry department was this big. And she was the one who at one point told me that I was never going to publish and I was never going to be any kind of good poet. Woo-hoo. I got a new advisor. He was like, yeah, if you want to go on. But when you have a professor who has the advanced degree, who's has the notoriety, et cetera, and tells you you can't write, and you don't, you sort of lose the hope that, that you're worthy. Even though I'm still writing poems for funerals, birthday parties, you know what I'm saying? This is all happening at the same time. Like, I'm so hung up on this one white woman, what she said. I ain't listened to the community. I ain't listened to my mama, my aunts, everybody. Every time somebody, can you write a poem about this? Hear these words. He go, oh, so-and-so died. Here, he go, oh, it's Christmas. Can you do this? Brain not even working. So, right. So all along, I just continued to write. I went back to my high school. I taught English and headed up the poetry club, and we did some writing. Then when I enlisted in the Coast Guard, I didn't write much during boot camp, but when I got to my second duty station, I got in trouble for sitting there doing gym watch and writing poetry. Because I don't want to watch them suckers. I have better things to think out. Yeah, right.
Seriously, like, what's going to happen in the gym? If you injure yourself, all you could do is call the medic. Nobody's going to come in and, well, at least back then, the probability of somebody coming in and blowing up the gym was very small. So it didn't.
It made no sense to me. Like, at the time, I was smaller than I am now. What am I really going to do if somebody drops a 200-pound weight over there? I'm sorry. You want me to do what? I'm going to pick up the phone?
Right? And I just roll it off of them.
Right. I'm not going to, self-preservation is the first law of nature. No. So I sat there and I was writing poetry, and I had gotten some more poetry awards, getting in trouble and stuff like that. And then after I got out, poetry was a real space where I would go, because I have, it helped me manage and help me deal with a divorce. It helped me deal with the military sexual trauma that I've been through, being a mom of 3 kids, that single, not even anticipating, getting out, not having no job, not being able to work, to my capacity. I know I physically can do stuff, and I can't because, kid's sick, and my brain is not doing this, and I got to take medication and blah, blah, blah. So poetry became that space, every day, whether I was journaling or typing on the computer or whatever. It became that space where I go to just be like,
put it all in the keyboard.
Right. It became that space. So when I moved to Greensboro, I was contacted. I met some friends who, one was a performance poet, which was not my bag. And I said, I'm not a performance poet. She said, you're an academic poet, which bothered the snot out of me. It bothered me because she boxed me in, because I had gone to college for it and was proud of my accomplishments.
She kind of made it seem like it wasn't natural. It wasn't from a real place. It was like, oh, you got it from a book. Real poets don't do that type of thing.
And real poets don't stand up and read. Right. So there was all of those layers in there. So I didn't really want to get up and do my work. I didn't really want to. So I managed her for a little while. I became one of the founders of Sigma Theta Lambda, which is a literary sorority. That
is awesome. Later on, you're going to go a little bit deeper into that for just minutes. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah. So, and then as I, was able to get back into the groove, and my daughter was doing better, my family life was coming together, I was meeting more poets. They were like, well, you need to get up in front of the mic. And I was like, y'all ain't ready for my stuff. For real. And it's not a cocky attitude. It's I've listened to and I've been to your open mics. I don't write where you are. So I don't want to do a disservice, and speak way over your head.
You're not the crowd that is going to dig this,
Right. So I was trying to find my way to do that. And then my mother passed away. And in the midst of my mother's transition, I made a decision to collect my work after 25 years or so and say, okay, a publisher reached out to me, was dead serious about getting me published, and I did it in 34 days. And yeah, like from start to finish, it was 34 days. So like from Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's, yeah, my mother was dying. I'm putting together this book. So
but you seem to perform really well under strenuous circumstances. Like it seems like your best work and all of your productivity comes when you are like under the stone. You were just really pressed.
Yes. Yeah, I don't do well if I have a whole lot of time to really think about something. My poetry is very reactionary, and my work is from that space. Like, so if it's there, it's going to come out one way or the other. So as I was working through my mom's stuff, the book came out. I read one of the poems at her funeral. I had a case of books. I got my first case of books, and I sold them all at the reception, the repast, whatever. That wasn't even part of the deal, right? Like that. I was like, I wasn't even trying. I wasn't trying. Like I literally read it, and I was like, look, I know she would be proud of the book, blah blah blah. And they were like, thank you. I was like, I ain't got no books left. Wow. So that was the beginning of this part of the journey where I was getting some quote unquote notoriety. From there, I got an award here locally. And then from that award, I got an award in Chicago for the Maya Angelou Literary Award. And then I've gotten other awards. And then the most recent one this year is the one for the minority women veterans for the Artist of the Year. Yeah. So it's like we were talking. Yeah, like it's like we were talking before, it's a building process. Like it's, like I never expected that. Like
to the Pulitzer, you have to get all these other small ones to recognize you. And they're all good because guess what? It's someone else who is on your work and what you do amongst others. So yeah.
Right. And in having that award this year, I was able to like use it to plug because what's an award if you can't plug yourself?
That's right.
Shamelessly, because there's a new initiative. Yes, shamelessly. There's a new initiative for veteran artists that just started, like in North Carolina. I saw it on Twitter. It's nationwide, and I was responding. I was like, "Yo, this went down in Jacksonville. Why didn't anybody say anything? What's going on here? Blah 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 blah." They were like, "Inbox us. Let us know the deal." That's Tabby. Say hi.
Hi.
Yeah. So yes. So we so I wrote this email and I was like, look, this is who I am. I've had veteran artists come to me and say to me, I know what you're doing. How can we do it elsewhere? Like, how can we do it as a collective? We don't have any money. We don't have any space. How do we do this? So I was really reaching out on the strength of the other veterans who came to me and said, I see what you're doing, but how do we do it together? How do we build? So I sent the email and I was like, and by the way, I'm the 2018, you know what I'm saying? Like name dropping, like, how you doing? Just in case you didn't know.
Right, like I am legit.
Right, like I'm legit. Like I really, and I was like, without that, not that it's not that my awards aren't valid, but this is just another way to be like, how you doing? Open door. Let me kick the door in and be like, I got 15, 20 people behind me. It's not about me. It's like, let me open the door. Let me see how many veterans I can get to be able to help them, because art whether it's music, dance, writing, visual, whatever it is definitely therapeutic. Like, there's no question about its necessity. And as veterans, we get stuck in routine and regimen. And when we don't have that, in the real world, not when you in, okay. But what do you do with your downtime? What do you do with those spaces where nobody's telling you what to do? You don't have directives. You don't have a quota to meet. What do you do?
It is real. First of all, I want to rewind a little. I want to go back. And you mentioned how poetry helped you with your transition and your mental health issues and such. And with, military related mental health issues in a transitioning phase, it is rough. And so for those of you who don't understand, you probably won't understand, but this message is mainly for those who are in that space. Like, you might have PTSD or anxiety or depression, and you just got out, and now you're like, what in the world? Everybody ends up having feelings of loss. Everybody ends up grieving in some way. But for those of us who have a little extra going on, it's a little tough, because in your brain, you feel like you should be doing more. You feel like you should be up at a certain standard, and you did at one time perform up to a certain standard mentally and physically, and now you're not. And you are struggling to reconcile. Not only do you not have your military career, regardless if you wanted to leave or not, because you are programmed to be there, but now you don't have the same mental and physical capabilities you had before. And then on top of that, if you've never been a single parent, I was one for a brief time, it is rough. And it's sudden. For many of us, it's sudden. Like, you wake up one day and you're like, oh my God.
Right.
Nobody else is going to wake up and feed these kids. Nobody else is going to take them to the doctor. Your boss doesn't understand that your child is sick. And guess what? You have to go home. Like, asking was a courtesy. He's lucky that you didn't walk out the door. So
absolutely.
And then your mom was sick. So you had all of these things going around. God bless poetry for helping you maintain some form of stability, because maintaining stability in a time of crisis is very, very difficult. Like, it's hard work.
It is. And if you have something, like I had said on the other interview that we don't know about, if you have something that stays consistent with you, it could be the trumpet. It could be that, like I have another friend who's a poet. Her name is Danny Cook. You can find her anywhere. She got a book too. She likes to go dance outside, barefoot. That's her thing. Like, you will see her dancing. Like, that's one of her coping mechanisms is to dance. Okay. Find whatever works for you. And she too went through a whole bunch. Like, her story is way more traumatic than mine in that sense. And so I lift her up a lot, because I watch her and I'm going, I don't even know how you get the hell out of bed. Like, for real. So if she can do it, and she can be a poet and make the transition, however long it takes, work, then I am on the right path. Like, there are other women that have already blazed this path that know that they're going to extend their hand to me, put it that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not in this alone. It's just finding specifically those other women, preferably women of color, who can speak to our very unique transition. It's a very different space. Like, I can talk to other fellow women veterans and we get it.
But we have a little extra that is involved in it, because a lot of the faces that you see when the term women veteran comes up are Caucasian, or women who are a lot fairer, or they're not Black, and not to say that their gripe is invalid, because it is not. However, as African-American women, we band together because we understand the subtle nuances that other people will not acknowledge.
Absolutely.
Stress points that you're like, I know you saw that. And everybody at the table who's Black is like, yeah, we saw it. And you don't have to explain it. how it's difficult to get a job when you're natural or you have locks or you want to be who you want to be. Like, you're outspoken in the most respectful way. And, you know, your place of work is like, I don't get why you keep saying stuff. Like, why do you keep talking?
Like, why you're disrespectful, or why are you angry?
And it's not disrespect or anger. It's just like, hey, would you say this if you were a man? No.
Right. And then on top of that, especially as women veterans, Black women veterans come from a whole different space of, excuse me, you really are gonna listen to me. Like, it's a whole different kind of command. So your disrespect of us is like, excuse me, no.
Right? I don't sit in a corner and be spoken to. I'm sorry, I cannot wait. And for us, we had no choice.
Right.
To come with the regulation, like, know our regulation before we fight for whatever cause we were fighting for that week. Like, we had no choice but to be little know-it-alls running around talking about AR dash, blah, 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 because that was the only way you were going to hear us, you know? And we're not raised to, I don't know about you, but my mom didn't raise me to bat my eyes and like act pretty so somebody can hear me. She's like, you get it on your own merit. So with that aside, there are subtle nuances that we can communicate with each other with that do not have to be explained.
Absolutely. And when you're in spaces, you know, to bring it back to being an artist, when you're in spaces that support those nuances, that support the expression of those, and that supports you working through that, then that makes healing and that makes your journey so much easier, because, you know, we're used to having a set network. And when you get out, you don't have that.
I have to say, the military has crippled us in that aspect. Now, I don't want them to undo that part. But when it comes down to it, we're crippled when we get out because there's nowhere else to fall on. If you don't retire out, or if you don't get 100% or 85% or what have you, you don't have anything else to fall back on. And so we have a lot of veterans out there who have nothing else to fall back on, and they don't realize that art can help them. If you go back in episode 3 or 4, when I talk about how I live with PTSD and I mentioned the toolbox, art can be a part of your toolbox.
Absolutely.
Now, some form of art probably should be a part of your toolbox, whether it's listening to music, making music, poetry, writing, journaling, whatever. Art can be a part of your toolbox.
Absolutely. And the fact that you hit the nail on the head, because I've talked about this in several spaces with different veterans about how we aren't given the tools we need to be successful when we transition. Like, when you in transition, they tell you a bunch of shit. Like, it's not applicable to life.
It's 7 days of just like, it's 7 days of a brush over. Seriously. Don't get me wrong, it's a necessary 7 days, but it really needs to be more detailed. And honestly, it needs to be more than 7 days. It seriously needs to be at least 3 to 6 months of like concentrated work, because you need that time to understand that you're not going to have your first sergeant, you know, pass you $50 when your money is tight, or your platoon leader is not going to be there to pick up your kid because you happen to have duty and the base is shut down because you're level 3 or something like that.
Right.
On the civilian side, not that they don't care, because they have their own, negativity, not negativity towards us, but they have their own things that they struggle with too. Their struggle is real. But from the military standpoint, they give us everything: food, clothing, shelter, transportation. Like, if you don't have a car, when you serve, you're going to get a car. They're going to make sure you have a ride. You know,
right.
Your family better eat and dress and act well. And when you get out, there's really no support in that aspect. Nobody's teaching you and raising you.
Right. And for a lot of our veterans who go in at 18, 19, 20, this is where they supposedly learn life skills over that first contract. And no one teaches them to hold on to the person that they were before they went in. Like they tell you to forget that person. So if you were an artist, if you were a dancer, if you were all this stuff, you forget that person. And lots of times you need that person as you transition, like from duty station to duty station. As you transition out, you need your old self along with the uniform. Like you need the whole person. Like you can't just forget that. And then when people get out, they remember that they like to do X, Y, and Z.
But it takes so much time. Like it took me a good year. I had gotten fired from my first job when I was in the military, and I couldn't get hired for a year. So I was like, during that time, I made a business. But that year that I had off was like a decompression phase. And I had to practice and put myself through the exercise of looking in the mirror and saying, Rolanda, I want ... And I still struggle to say what I want, because in the military, you were trained to want what Uncle Sam wants. Now, I know some of you sisters out there right now are going to be like, oh, well, I want what I want, and nobody's going to tell me. All right. So when you out and 30 days out, you're trying to figure out who is sergeant, officer, lieutenant, warrant officer, specialist, so-and-so, because your status in the military is who you are.
Absolutely.
Yourself by staff sergeant, warrant officer, commander, captain, whoever.
Absolutely. And that was part of my problem when I went in, because they didn't like my arrogance, because I came in educated. I came in older, so they couldn't talk to me any kind of way. And I was like, sorry, boo, I had a job before here. I can get a job if I want to leave here. Like, let's not even get this twisted. I'm more educated than you. Let's not go here. Your rank doesn't do anything for me. Like, I'll respect your rank, but no. And they're like, well, you're just, and why do you have to ask so many questions? Why not? Like, like, why are you writing poetry? Why not? It's not in the regs. What you talking about? I know it's not. What, you gonna write me up for writing poetry and frame it like I'm not doing as a dereliction of duty? Shut up. Like, you're right. Like, I'm stupid. No, I'm not. I'm paying attention, looking over the screen. Is anybody dying? No. Okay, good. Appreciate you.
And for those who do practice your art, I want you to stop and look around and notice how many other people are practicing some form of art form.
Yes.
Look, because you don't usually see those people until you deploy, and it's like, family night or whatever, and you guys are at the auditorium and now you have a talent show, and then all of a sudden you figure out your partner can sing. Like, whoa, how come you didn't say something? Celebrating your art is one of those kind of secret art forms. It's a secret form of expression. So now when you're out in the civilian sector, you don't have to be secret. And guess what? You can actually make money with your art. You don't have to be Beyonce, Angelou, but you can make money. You just have to be creative as to how you earn an income. So why don't you share with us some of the ways that an artist can earn an income being an artist?
Well, I mean, for your visual artists, the primary way that a lot of visual artists do is to create the work and then to sell it. You can sell it you can have it posted in coffee shops, in small museums. I would say if you're a visual artist, to partner with small local businesses. People need stuff on their walls. It's a way to get your work out there. It's also a way for people to contact you and see you. So if you're a serious visual artist, you can do murals. Great. Paint and sips are real popular now for the visual artists. So that's another way. If you can do a little sketch, like I went to one for Biggie last weekend, like Biggie prints, pick something that's pretty easy to draw. Will draw people in, and then you can have your work up on easels. Now, is there an investment? Yes, there is an investment in canvases, which you can get at Michael's and get your coupons, get it cheap. Like, you got
there's an investment if you get a regular job too, because you got to wear clothes and get and stuff. So
right, Right. So if you're partnering with a variety of spaces, especially if you say you're, when you say you're a veteran or yada, you use whatever you can flex, then you'll be able to save on one hand, invest in the other, and then start to make a little money. It ain't going to be like super fast, but it is going to be some money. For anybody that writes, I tell everybody, I've told everybody that I have met, it is my mantra that can't nobody tell you a story like you. Don't expect me to. Period. So that means that you need to publish your own book. Like I don't care how you publish it. You can get a publisher, you can self-publish, whatever it is, you can Lulu, you can upload it.
Staples and print your own.
Right. You can do anything. Just get your story out there and you determine your price, you determine how much it is, and move that sucker. Like it's simple. That's for that. If you have written a story, you can record it on SoundCloud or an audio book or whatever. People can purchase it for like $1, make a little money, keep it moving. For the dancers that I know, they get paid if they participate in workshops, in productions, and or they teach you how to dance. So if you're a dancer and you're really good at salsa, ain't nobody got to be certified. You just got to know what you're doing. Have a little salsa party. Rent out a space for an hour. Have a little salsa party. See if people show up.
That's true, because guess what? I've taken professional dance classes. I still can't dance, but that's on me. But I've never asked, do you have a certification in dancing? Listen, if it looked good to me, I know how to foxtrot, but if it looks good to me and it looks like you're not tripping and I'm like, look, I want to do that, then guess what? It's worth paying for.
Absolutely.
A lot of art, you don't have to be certified.
Thank you.
You have to be good at it.
Thank you. And that's the other part of this, is that we get so hung up, especially as veterans, about quals. You know what I'm saying? Like, what makes me qualified? And so we talk ourselves out of our natural gifts. And your stuff, whether it's your music or, your photography or whatever, is better than you think it is. And there's always a market for you. The world has billions of people. There's enough to go around. Like the scarcity is a fallacy. You know what I'm saying? Like you can
abundance. There's an abundance of everything.
Absolutely.
I want to touch on another way you can earn income. Now, listen, don't judge. This is another thing we need to get over as a community. Go and get your veteran rating.
Absolutely.
Go and get I don't care if you never fell. I don't care if you had a paper cut. I do not care. I don't care. Go and get your rating. Seriously.
Absolutely.
The military, you were bionic, 100%. And we all been through MEPS. We know MEPS does not let everybody in. Half of your friends couldn't come in. The one or two who tried again kept getting kicked away, and you were the one who got in. And when you left, you were not quite the same, whether it be physically, mentally, or both.
Right. And
self down to the VA.
Yep.
Get your rating. It could be 10%, but guess what? That's your money that you earned serving your country. I don't care if you're technically a veteran or if you have an other than general whatever discharge. Get your rating. That's money that comes to you every single month that you earned.
Yes, and I want to say on that without my VA rating, I wouldn't be able to art the way that I do, because the rating allows me to be able to take care of myself and not be dependent on having to get up and go to work. Now, that's not a bad thing, even though that's natural to us, because I needed to decompress. I needed the time and the space to not worry about money. Like, that's a big, huge stress in your life. And when you don't have that, you can then focus on healing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You can focus on your healing, and there's no two ways around that. You have to be able. And so even at like 50%, if you don't have to think about your rent, or if you don't have to think about, basic necessities, you can get up and take any old kind of job, or you can pick the kinds of jobs you want to work on. And you can have a little bit of money to invest in yourself, in your art, to buy your canvas, and it's not really coming out your pocket, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So you can really do those things. So yeah.
I also want to emphasize being able to choose the job that you work. If you have a disability of any kind, even if they didn't diagnose it as a disability, even if you're not drawing quote unquote disability money, you now need to shape your life to not honor the disability, but to address that disability. So if you can't tolerate high, constant levels of stress because it triggers you, then you might have to choose another job. I know it's not art, but you might have to choose another job. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because even when I went because I went through an organization called The Mission Continues for the veterans that are out there. It allows you to serve your community, your own personal community, after you go and get your little training for 6 months, and they pay you a pretty good amount of money to work at a local nonprofit. My choice was to work with other fellow veterans. Now, that's not a problem if you didn't already dealt with your mess.
But if you didn't deal with your stuff, if you
didn't,
you have to understand, when you get out, you may not still acknowledge that there's a problem going on. Your family told you like, hey, you're not right. And your friends don't want to talk to you anymore. Your boss is like, you got one more time. But you may not have acknowledged that there's something going on. You need to deal with your mess.
Right. Right. And there's no way that you're going to know your triggers. You know what I'm saying? Like, because every day there may be a new trigger. Every day there may be something else. And if you're not active in being aware of what's going on, even when you try to help people, it don't do nothing but make your situation worse.
Yeah, and make you more excited. Like, you might see somebody who was a violator, or who reminds you of that person who pissed you off. Or honestly, I'm going to tell you from a real standpoint, I have flashbacks on a daily basis. And so there's any little thing that might have reminded me of some part of deployment or what have you, I have a flashback. I will see myself surrounded by that surroundings. I'm used to it now, so I do my 5 senses or whatever I have to do to get back into the present. But if you're one of those people who haven't reconciled the fact that this is your normal life, it will send you into a panic attack.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and I know a lot of us as veterans, we want to get out there. We want to help, especially help our fellow veterans. And it's stupid to want to help and you ain't helped yourself. I know we learned that. I know we learned to help others before we help ourselves. And, Uncle Sam comes first, and the unit comes first, and everybody else comes first besides us. But we ain't no good to nobody out here if we out here broken, because all we doing is adding salt to our own wounds, and we ain't really helping the people we trying to help in the first place. So
if you don't have the energy to take care of yourself, your glass is empty. How are you gonna hydrate someone else when your glass is empty?
Absolutely.
You need a full glass, abundant of water and nutrients and other things to share with people before you start to give of yourself, before you start to give to other people. Because once you get depleted, nobody benefits. You know what though? We're gonna move on because we can go to church all day long on this. So how can we find your books? How can we find you? Back up. You've given us a lot of pearls of wisdom. Do you have any other advice you want to give our artists out here who want to pursue their art?
The first thing is to remember who you are. Everybody has something, a gift that they've always fallen back on, and to move there. Once you move into that, even little steps, you'll find people that reflect where you are. So you'll find a new circle of people that are artists. You will find people that sing, dance, do whatever when you move into that. That's one. Two, if you are concerned about the investment, if you're concerned about the wealth or the worth, don't do it for those purposes. This is for you. Your art is literally for you. The fact that somebody else sees the value in it is a bonus. Like, I didn't write any of these. I wrote these poems for me. Like, I'm mad, whatever. And people will go through my book and find that they identify with X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, oh, word? For real? Oh, okay. That was like, years ago. So don't discount, who you are or what you are. You can always find your talent. You may not know that you're a writer. I do a workshop called penmanship, and I lead people through a series of workshops. And the thing is, everybody can write because everybody has a pencil and a piece of paper.
Good. Yes. So start writing today so you can get better.
That's absolutely right.
Express yourself.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you were asking me how to get the book. Go to Barnes & Noble. It's called Poetry in Plain Sight.
Okay.
There it is. It's a pretty book.
The link to the book will be below. So all you have to do is click on below and it'll take you straight to the book. Yeah.
So that's it. My second book is probably going to come out next month. I have to do some work to it. Yeah. It's done. It's finished. It's done. I just have to publish it and get it together. Mm-hmm. The second book is called Other Side of the Moon. So you'll have to look for that. And I'll send Rolanda the link or however you can get it. And then on top of that, I have a t-shirt that's coming out. That'll be out in the next couple of weeks too.
You know what you can do? Just go on my regular business page and just post it.
Yeah, I will. I'll post when all my stuff is done. I'll have everything. Just
post the link and, because it'll flash to me like, hey, somebody put a post. And if you don't see it right away, then I'll probably take it off and repost it so it comes up top on the top. But just post it. Because other than that, really, sometimes I can be unreliable. I'm not going to lie. I get a little busy. I get forgetful. So just post it on.
It's all right. It's okay. I will, like I said, I will share and post the stuff that I have going on. Y'all watch out because me and Rolanda and another friend, Miss Toya, we're going to be doing some stuff in May. So just watch. Second week of May is all I'm going to say. Greenville. Yep. I'm going to put that out there because we're going to be doing some stuff. So if y'all like what you hear here, right here, and the three of us have not done a show. I did a show with Toya last week and it was a similar energy. So I know the three of us get together.
Oh my goodness. It's going to be so much fun.
Right. So I look forward to coming down to Greenville to doing what we do and building with everybody and helping them get to where they need to get to. So
yes, definitely. Okay, so I'm going to put all of her contact information below so that you can reach out to her. Remember, she has a workshop that's called penmanship. If you want to write poetry, if you want to get your voice, learn how to gather your voice, I need you to go on and sign up for that class. Is it virtual or is it in person?
I can do. The plan is to do an in-person one when I come to Greenville. I'm just are we working on that? That's one part of the thing. But I'll probably do a virtual one next month for National Poetry Month.
Okay, so you heard it from her. Just make sure you reach out to her, get on her email list, hit her up on her Facebook and all of her contact information, and tune in. She is the first artist, quote unquote artist, for this show. And I have her on many more times because I think the artists in our community are being neglected. And some folks don't. Yeah, folks don't know they're artists, and so if you got something, I don't care if you picked up a guitar yesterday or bought an old keyboard or whatever, or you never thought you could do anything.
especially as veterans, we need an outlet. We need the space. You know, we need the space to be able to heal and be okay. And if
we
you
need an
need that
outlet of our choosing.
right, yeah, and if that happens to be 2 hours on a Saturday, great. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's 2 hours on Saturday, I got you. We can do that. Not a problem.
Right. Okay, so everybody look below for the contact information. Go ahead and buy her book. And we're going to sign off. Thank you so much, Lavinia. It is always awesome to speak to. Always. We could be on here all day long and my computer would die out from the bad battery and everything.
Well, I've enjoyed this and I look forward to, you know, doing whatever. And when I get the Nakupenda up, the Pemisip Nakupenda edition online, I will definitely send you the link so you can put it out there and we can get it going.